Marie! Marie!
What?
Babe, can you go get me some more Cubanisto? I don't have any more Cubanisto, please.
Pardon? Mais ça va pas ou quoi? Mais va le chercher ton cubanisto! Et lui, non? Il est fou, j'y crois pas. Merde!
Hello everyone and welcome to today's episode of WhoDey Lounge. I'm your host, Cincy DeFrance. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Bengals giving players opportunities to play, other players who aren't getting opportunities to play, and I'm going to have a quick preview of tonight's Steelers versus Bengals game on Monday Night Football. Let's go. The first thing I wanted to talk about is how the Bengals are doing a good job of getting other players opportunities to play. The most obvious example so far is Alden Tate. Now, he has taken over the starting wide receiver role away from Damian Willis. Are the Cincinnati Bengals watching WhoDey Lounge? Maybe, because if they were watching WhoDey Lounge, they would have seen in a previous video how I cut up plays where Damian Willis left plays on the field, and I even showed how perhaps maybe if another wide receiver were in that position, the results may have been different. And particularly, if Alden Tate had been in that position, maybe the results would have been different. Now, this is not to bash Damian Willis. However, I think Alden Tate in some of those situations would have made better plays on the ball. Now, Alden Tate, to his credit, he's come in, he's played well, he's caught the passes he's supposed to catch. Hopefully that will continue. Another player who's getting opportunities, albeit because of injury, is Billy Price. Now, Billy Price came in and started at left guard against the Buffalo Bills, and he actually played really well. He played so well that I had hoped that he would be able to hold on to that starting left guard position. However, since then, Zach Taylor has come out and said that Michael Jordan, now that he's healthy, he will take back over the starting role at left guard. What I'm hoping to see is some type of rotation tonight when the Bengals face the Steelers. Billy Price, he was a first-round draft pick. We need to have some type of compensation for that first-round draft pick. He's not our starting center. Maybe, perhaps he can take over a starting guard position. When he came out of college, many people said that he would probably be a better starting guard than a center anyway. That turned out to be the case. I think it's obvious after watching him play guard against the Buffalo Bills. If Michael Jordan struggles, I will look for Billy Price to get some reps at left guard. Hopefully he can win that job for no other reason than he's a first-round draft pick. Another player getting more playing time is Jermaine Pratt. Now, we all know that we need linebacking help, but I do not believe that Jermaine Pratt brings the linebacker help that most fans are hoping for. At the time, when he got drafted in the third round, everybody knew we needed help at linebacker. We still need help. However, when you throw in the tape, it was obvious that Jermaine Pratt was not the type of linebacker that we were searching for. Jermaine Pratt, in spite of being a converted safety, is not a coverage linebacker. His forte is rushing the passer and stopping the run. He's not going to be the type of linebacker that runs from sideline to sideline. He's not going to be the type of linebacker that covers running backs out of the backfield and covers tight ends down the field. I know there's some cognitive dissonance going on there because he should be able to. After all, he's a converted linebacker. But when you throw in the tape, you see right away his forte is rushing the passer and stopping the run. Now, during the draft process, the linebacker I wanted the Bengals to target was Ben Burr Kirven out of Washington. This was because he was the second best ranked coverage linebacker in the entire draft. Now, he got drafted in the 5th round by his hometown Seattle Seahawks. I looked up his stats, and he is credited for 2 forced fumbles, which is really good, and 2 tackles, which is not a lot. But it's to be expected. He is, after all, playing for the Seattle Seahawks. So he's behind guys like Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright, Shaquem Griffin, Michael Kendricks. These are Pro Bowl caliber type linebackers up in Seattle. So it's going to take him some time to get on the field. But as of right now, he's kind of stuck down a bit on the depth chart. If I were the GM, I'm not the GM, but if I were the GM, I would actually call the Seattle Seahawks today and inquire about what it would take for the Cincinnati Bengals to trade for Ben Burr Kirven. He's the type of linebacker that we need right now. Somebody who can operate in space, somebody who can cover tight ends, somebody who can cover running backs out of the backfield. He's somebody who would add an element that the Bengals currently do not have at the linebacker position. Now I wanted to get into a couple of players not being given the opportunity to play. The first of whom is tight end Ethan Carter. Now he's listed on the roster as a tight end, but most of us know that he's basically our fullback. However, he hasn't been used as a fullback yet this year. Now, last year we had the AFC's leading rusher. This year, we are far from that. Now, one of the things that's different about this year from last year is that Ethan Carter was actually being used as a fullback last year. I think the Bengals should consider actually using Ethan Carter as a fullback. Now, I know we're supposed to be running this Rams offense, and there's supposed to be 2 tight end sets and lots of jet sweep motioning and etc. etc. If you want to keep that look, how about having Ethan Carter at tight end, motion him into the backfield, and then use him as a fullback that way? We need some type of spark. We need something that will spark this running game, that will get this running game going. At this point, the offensive line is what it is. We're not going to get a lot of help at this point. So now what we need to do, hopefully what the coaching staff can do, is scheme up some things to try to help Joe Mixon and Giovanni Bernard get the ground game going. If the Bengals don't want to use Ethan Carter, they could always use Drew Sample. After all, they drafted him in the 2nd round to be a blocking tight end. So far, he's had limited snaps. When he's had snaps, he's done a pretty good job. He's even caught a few passes. If they don't want to use Ethan Carter, have Drew Sample line up at tight end, motion him into the backfield, and use him as a fullback. However, we've seen Ethan Carter do it. We've seen him have success doing it. I'm not sure why he's only been limited to special team snaps so far. And the other player I wanted to talk about who is not getting an opportunity to play is Ryan Finley. Now, I know what you're thinking, but this is not a bench Andy Dalton take. This is more of a I'm thinking out loud take. It's just because we see the young players who are getting opportunities at other positions. Why not see what a young player can do eventually at the quarterback position? Everyone saw what he did during the preseason. Everybody got really excited about his ability. Maybe nobody got as excited as ESPN's own Mike Greenberg.
Great. I'll tell you what, I'm watching the best rookie quarterback in the NFL so far, and it's the one no one's talking about. Ryan Finley in Cincinnati. Did you know he's completed 73% of his passes for 414 yards and 3 touchdowns in this preseason? Do not be surprised if that rookie isn't one who winds up getting some starts this season, depending on how things go with Andy Dalton in Cincinnati.
Unfortunately for Mike Greenberg, and also unfortunately for me, because I was also excited to watch him play their 4th preseason game, the Bengals decided not to play him at all during that final preseason game. Now that should go to show you how much this team values him as a quarterback. Usually not being subjected to the 4th preseason game is only reserved for your starting quarterback. The fact that he's the backup quarterback and they still chose not to play him shows how much this coaching staff values him. So let's look practically, objectively at this situation. Right now in the NFL, there are 13 teams who are carrying 3 quarterbacks on their roster. Now, when you look at these 13 teams, you see that most of them have the same type of formula. It's veteran QB starter, rookie backup quarterback, and a veteran QB backup. All of these teams follow that formula except for 2. One of which is the San Francisco 49ers, who have Jimmy Garoppolo backed up by 2 veteran quarterbacks. The biggest outlier is the Cincinnati Bengals. Now we have the veteran Andy Dalton, and he's being backed up by a 4th round draft pick, Ryan Finley, and an undrafted rookie free agent in Joe DeLagula. Now, the Bengals are the only team who have that combination. Why is it that we're actually keeping an undrafted rookie free agent quarterback on the roster, especially when we all know we need help at the offensive line. We all know we need help at the linebacker position. There are places that need to be filled throughout this roster, and yet and still we're holding on to an undrafted rookie free agent who hasn't been active at all this year. That's what the practice squad is for. What are the Bengals holding on to him for? That's something to keep an eye out on. As another practical matter, the Bengals loved him so much that they used extra draft capital to trade up further into the 4th round to get him. Not only that, he was the only quarterback that they brought in for a pre-draft visit. They loved him before the draft, they loved him during the draft, and obviously after the preseason, the way he performed, they loved him even more. So why not look for a moment and opportunity to see what he can do, not against preseason backups, but during the regular season when the games actually count. Furthermore, unfortunately, the Bengals season is trending in the wrong direction. As it stands already, most predicted that the Bengals will have a top 5 pick in the draft next year. Some are even predicting the Bengals will have the number 2 pick in the draft, right behind the Miami Dolphins. If the season continues to trend in that direction, I will look for Ryan Finley to get some playing time just to see what he can do. This is because if we do have a top 5 pick, we might be faced with the decision of, do we draft another quarterback, or can we go forward with Ryan Finley? If we haven't seen him play, then we don't know. But at least if we see him play and there's some promise, there's some hope there, then maybe we don't draft a quarterback. Maybe we can draft an offensive lineman. If we see that there's nothing there, then maybe we can pull the trigger on a quarterback. We'll talk about draft talk in another video, but that's the way I would be thinking right now when it comes to Ryan Finley and Andy Dalton. And the final point I wanted to make on this subject is Andy Dalton's cap number for next year. Right now, if the Bengals decide to move on away from Andy Dalton, they would save $17,700,000 against the cap. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money to help sign free agents at offensive line, at linebacker. That's a lot of money to help re-sign some of the pieces that we already have on the team that we hope to re-sign for next year. Now, looking forward to tonight's Monday Night Football game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm predicting a close game. However, if I had to put my money on it, I would predict the Pittsburgh Steelers to win. The Bengals are 3-point favorites on the road in Pittsburgh, so that's a pretty big deal. Vegas obviously thinks the Bengals are going to win this game by at least 6 points. I do believe the Bengals will get opportunities to attack the Pittsburgh Steelers secondary deep. Hopefully the offensive line can hold up to give Andy Dalton time to throw deep, and hopefully when he does throw deep, I hope John Ross, if he's the target, will be able to come down with some of those catches. On the defensive side of the ball, hopefully this won't be a get-right game for the Pittsburgh Steelers and their run game. We have struggled to stop the run. The Pittsburgh Steelers have struggled to run the ball, so hopefully that will continue for this game. The matchup favors the Bengals and the linebackers and what they do best. The matchups weren't favorable for the Bengals defense when we played the 49ers and the Bills. They were too fast. However, we did a pretty good job against the Seattle Seahawks. The Pittsburgh offense kind of reminds me of Seattle's offense in that respect. So hopefully our defense will match up better with their offense and we'll be able to keep them in check. My final prediction is that the Pittsburgh Steelers will win. It will be a close game. It might even come down to a missed field goal. Well, that's all I have time for today's video. Thank you for visiting the WhoDey Lounge. I hope you come back. I hope to talk to you soon. Thanks for taking the time to listen to my ramblings. Have a great day. Have a wonderful day. Have a WhoDey.